first person to ever interview me. Actually, second.
Okay. The first person's what?
Second person to interview me. But never about the emotional.
Okay. Hey guys, still here. Just finished the Infinite Man Summit, and I met Mark, the emotional alchemist.
That's the one.
And we connected right away. We talked about some mutual interests, and I was very inspired. Not only me, but Sasha Daygame, who leads the Infinite Man, was also very inspired by you, and I believe that maybe perhaps you guys are going to work together. There was some talk of that, and so I wanted to sit down with you because that's a very intriguing word, alchemist, and the emotional alchemist. That's really attractive. That really interests me, and I imagine it would interest you guys to look him up, look his channel up. So basically, I'm sitting down with some of the speakers that were here throughout this week in Acapulco and talking about their work. And I would like to learn a little bit more about your work, as it interested me. And what are you doing? I know that you're traveling the world, and that was very intriguing to me. So we had some conversations about that. So Mark, share with us a little bit about your work and what you do, and maybe your experience out here in Acapulco 2019.
Yep. So for me, the Emotional Alchemist is all about recovering my identity, myself, from what happened, in my childhood, and then in a few years after that. It's the reason that we all wear a mask. When they call us persons, it comes from the Greek word persona, which means to wear a mask. And so for me, it's about becoming my authentic self. How can I, what are those parts of me that I hide? The reason I call it the alchemist is because back in the old days, I'll call them, alchemy was turning lead into gold. And for me, emotional lead is feelings like fear, blame, shame, anger, guilt, sadness, those things. And all of them come from fear. Sadness is a fear that I'm not whole. Shame is a fear that I'm not enough. And anger is a fear that I'm not okay, and that I can't, that I'm powerless and not taken care of. So for me, it comes in two parts. First of all, I need to admit that I've got that. That's a tough thing to do. And I need to go back and look at really what was the event that gave me that feeling, my first conscious event that gave me that feeling in the first place. So it's, and what it usually comes down to is there's a 6-year-old version of me sitting on a classroom floor experiencing something he doesn't understand because it's before the age of reason, and I can't work those things out, and I'm experiencing emotion. And then these days, it's a similar situation, but it's different, it's appropriate. So now I'm 42 years old. It's not the same stuff that triggered me as a 6-year-old. Right. But it's the same. If something happens and I get that same feeling, it's a trigger which in my mind and memory is from back then. And it's like, okay, so how do I work through that? It's about healing and nurturing, but that doesn't come naturally. So I'm a recovering addict. I'm 14 years. I did a lot of stuff that was really bad for me. I found it really difficult to look after myself when I was, I found it really difficult to look after myself. And it's like, because there's this internal message, which is, you're not good enough. And so my recovery from all of the dark stuff that happened back then is in learning to nurture myself, because what happens is when that feeling of I'm not good enough comes up, then what also comes up is I don't deserve. And that's when I stop nurturing myself. And addiction grows through disconnection. So actually what I need when I feel those addictive thoughts, it's not even a substance or whatever. It's like when I feel that I should be punished, or that I'm not good enough, or any of that stuff, that's when I need to nurture myself most. And what I do, what reflex reaction, I call a friend, because what happens is I'm stuck in this really low vibration energy, and with a problem, with fear or whatever it is that's come up, and I need them because they're not in that energy. So they can just say, well, Mark, have you, and whatever it is, it's like, and they hold me, even if it's my good friends know, and I trust them to say whatever they want to me. They have carte blanche to say whatever they want because they have proven their trust to me over the years. That's not my experience. My experience has been in learning to slowly trust the world and show up in the world as me, as my authentic self. Hardest thing to do these days, because to be an individual is to be a target, and you're allowed to be an individual within certain parameters. And so actually, can I show the world who I am, even if at times that looks a bit weird, it looks a bit odd, strange, and it's like more and more. And that's why I started the YouTube channel, because on it I talk about my fear, my shame, and all the rest of those low vibration emotions, and how I move through them to the emotions that I really want, which is joy, happiness, fun, excitement, wonder, romance. And it's kind of but I can't do that if I'm just, for me, I have to do shadow work to heal my past so that I can live present. Because if I'm always being triggered and I've always got low vibration emotions, it means I'm not present, because something from back then is still clouding my today. And by doing shadow work, and there's loads of information about it online, and especially on YouTube, I can heal those experiences so that today, when stuff comes up, I can just go, okay, I can do this and I can do this, rather than the fear that dominates everything and makes us have really bad decision making. Yes. That is what I call emotional alchemy.
Awesome to hear you sharing on the subject, and you touching on the subject of addiction, which that's one of the reasons we connected. I'm also a recovering addict, alcoholic, you name it, from many addictions, and been in recovery for 21 years, and we bonded right there when we started talking, and it's great to find other people that have done the 12-step work and come from that kind of background that I can relate. Being a substance abuse counselor, that's my work, that's my life, and that's where the transformation in my life began, right? Where you talked about the wakening up of the spirit. Getting clean or sober is just the first step to get in the game. So that was very interesting to hear, and I love it. I love this term alchemy, and how we can, we really need to be alchemists to come out of this suppression, this matrix, this control system. We got to really rock and roll. Otherwise, it's like a computer, a mouse that goes into the screensaver. I don't see them anymore, but if I don't do anything, I go back to banging my head, and I don't think once you're awakened, it's very satisfying to go back to the dead life. So thank you, Mark, for sharing a little bit of your experience, of your life, of your work. And I know you're traveling all over the world now, taking your work there. Yes, absolutely.
Sorry to interrupt. So for me, it's about the hardest thing is to show up as an individual, and the next hardest thing, or equally hard, is to show you those parts of me that I find hard to say. So actually, I know so many people that the last thing they're going to say is they're a recovering addict. And it's like, and I know that shame. Yeah. And it's like, I don't have shame about it because it's given me one of the greatest gifts ever. Yes. It's like things got so painful that I had to work on my stuff, and now it's kind of like, it's just one of those things. Yeah. And I've done, and 12-step is, I know that, 12-step is often loaded for people, but for me, it's like I did a couple of 12 steps, And then, but I've done a whole bunch of other stuff as well. It's like that's where it started. That's where it started for me, and I still do it. But actually, it's like the tip of the iceberg.
Yes.
So it started me off.
Yes. Well said, because I can totally relate to your experience. So we're gonna go to dinner now. It's time. We spent the entire day at Infinite Man. Mark, once again, I want to thank you.
Thanks, dude.
You know, it was awesome meeting you in the last 2 days, and I wish you the best of luck. You might come visit us in Miami. You know, we'll see what happens and where life takes us. Thanks again, Mark. Again, good luck, and I'll see you sometime in the future. We'll see what shows up.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for watching, and we'll see you when we'll see you. Beautiful. Thank you so much.
I'm gonna send you. Are you gonna put this on YouTube?